$120 Leatherman or $40 Gordan? Let's check it out. This is the Gordan Multi-Tool on the right, and this is the Leatherman Wave on the left. So I just recently picked up this Gordan Multi-Tool at Harbor Freight for about 40 bucks, although I did get it on sale, which brought it down a little bit more. But this multi-tool is basically a clone of the Leatherman Wave. So I'm just going to give a rundown of a side-by-side comparison between the two, see if I notice if there's any quality differences. I'm also looking to see if there's any differences between each tool or anything like that. So I'm going to go right into it and start with the outside of the tools. So to start out with the pocket clip, this is a third-party pocket clip on the Leatherman Wave. This one did come with the Gordan Multi-Tool, but I did pick this one up on Amazon just because whenever I got it, it didn't have one. So that's not really something to compare because I don't have the authentic Leatherman pocket clip. Although the Gordan pocket clip is really nice because it has a pretty stiff retention, so I don't see it falling out of my pocket. Although with the knockoff one that I have, it isn't as good, and I have had problems with it falling out of my pocket. Now going into the hardware, I do notice a little bit of differences between the screws, but it doesn't seem to be anything major. I did actually try loosening these screws because whenever I got this tool, it was a little stiff. I just oiled it up a little bit, tried to loosen it, break it in a little bit, but it didn't really do anything, so that's kind of how it is. I'm hoping that over time it will break in, but as of right now, it's a pretty stiff tool compared to what I've got here. The first tools that I want to compare is the knives. Something that I want to note is that the straight edge blade has a smooth edge on the outside on both tools, and for the serrated blade, it has a little groove on the top. So here's the straight edge blade on the Leatherman Wave. It is really smooth. It has a real nice sharp blade, easy to open. The thing with the Gordan is it's not as easy to open. It's not quite as smooth. The action isn't there. Although I do see this breaking in and becoming a lot easier to open. That's just how it is right now. So now moving over to the serrated blade, here's the Leatherman, and then we'll compare it to, this one's even stiffer, compare it to the Gordan. So the Gordan has this little gut hook here, which I find really useful. It'd actually be really nice if Leatherman had something like that on it. Having that one additional feature is a pretty good selling point for the Gordan, so it has me there. Although, like I said, it's not quite as easy to open as it is with the Leatherman, but breaking it in over time, maybe it'll become easier. So next I have the file. Here's the file on the Gordan and the file on the Leatherman. So something that I noticed right away, which I can't remember if this is just worn out or if that's just how the Gordan is this file on the edge is the teeth are a lot deeper than the teeth that are on this Leatherman. So I would say these are pretty comparable. They seem fairly similar. I guess just using them over time will be the true test to see how they're going to compare. So now comparing the saw, here's the Gordan and here is the Leatherman. And that already right there is quite a big difference. You can see the teeth on this are much deeper than the Leatherman. So I see this going two ways. Either it's going to be really nice to cut and it'll grab really well with these deep teeth, or it might actually make it a little bit difficult because they are straight down rather than the slanted teeth. And with them being so deep, it might bite and it might not allow you to cut as easily. So this would definitely be something to compare over time, but just looking at it, these teeth are a lot deeper than the teeth on this one. All right, now opening them up, there are a few differences here that I'd like to go over. So with the Leatherman, it has these replaceable cutters, which is nice because if you end up wearing them out, all you got to do is swap them out. While with this, you would just need to buy a new tool, which really isn't that big of a deal because if you get your $40 use out of it and buy another one, you've got a whole new tool and you can use this as a backup tool or something. So realistically, having the non-replaceable cutters isn't that big of a deal. I would say these cutters probably aren't as great as the Leatherman, but for 40 bucks, it's really not that bad. Now the pliers, they're pretty much identical. I really can't see that much of a difference between the two of them. My only thing is what I really like about the Leatherman is that the weight of the pliers allows me to just drop them and they go back down to their original position. Now with the Gordan, I don't know if it's because it's not broken in yet, but they don't fall quite the same way as the Leatherman does. So that's a little bit of a downfall, but maybe they'll get there. So maybe just breaking them in, I can try to get them to work themselves in. So now going to the inside of the tool, they both have the scale. I don't know how well they correlate with each other, but we're going to look at that. Keep in mind, this is my first time looking at these two tools together, so I haven't really been able to look very deep into the differences and similarities. This is kind of my little test to see what I noticed off of the first sight. So it appears to be that the scales are the same. Yeah, everything lines up. They look pretty much identical. All right, so then let's open it up to the scissors. Here's the scissors on the Gordan and the scissors on the Leatherman. So one thing I noticed right away is whenever I open these up with the Leatherman, it was easy to just start cutting right away. Now with the Gordan, it kind of bites a little bit before you can get to the scissors, but they are pretty comparable. So next we have the precision bit driver. The only thing is mine is broken, so I really can't say too much about it. They look pretty similar. Not too much to say. All right, next is the flathead screwdriver. So we got the Gordan here up top and the Leatherman down here. And these actually look a little bit different. Maybe it's just the blade steel. All right, moving on to the other side of the tool. Here's the Leatherman Wave. We have the bit driver here. Snap that open. And the bit driver on the Gordan. This is a lot stiffer. So this is probably one of the bigger differences between the two. The Leatherman Wave has a little spring retention, so it keeps the bit locked in like that. While the Gordan just has a little magnet on the bottom, and there's not much holding it in place. It's kind of loose in there, and it's enough where it'll keep it from falling out, but it's pretty easy to swap in and out. Now, one thing I did want to do is try swapping the bits and see what we can get. So the Gordan fits in the Leatherman. Must be a little bit smaller. And the Leatherman also fits in the Gordan, so maybe they are the same size. So now with the can opener, I always have problems opening it up on the Leatherman. I don't know if that's something in other tools, but I usually always need a tool to open up this tool. So I have to just get that quick. See if I can do it with the Gordan. Yeah, I don't have as much of a problem with the Gordan, but with the Leatherman, it doesn't always come out. So they look pretty much the same. There's really not much to say about this one. I don't really see any differences. So now the next thing is closing the tools. They are comparable to each other. Here's the Leatherman, and here is the Gordan, and they both just kind of snap in and lock in pretty nicely. So comparing the locking mechanism between the Gordan and the Leatherman, I would say they're pretty much comparable as far as retention and how well they hold everything together. It seems like they are just about identical. One thing I did just notice is the Gordan has a little glass breaker on the side, and that's something that the Wave does not have. Although this tool is pretty much useless because the pocket clip is in the way, so really just using this tool, you could probably just use it as a glass breaker on any of these sharp edges. I don't think this really serves much of a purpose. So the next thing is the quality difference. Am I going to notice a difference between the Leatherman and the Gordan? So what I'm going to do is carry this on me for the next 6 months or so, maybe do a video on that. That way I'll be able to tell how is the knife, how is it going to open and close, how is the quality, is anything going to break because I've already had stuff break on this, how is it going to hold up in my pocket, will it take a beating, things like that. So the next thing I'm interested in is how is the Gordan going to work in my loadout. The Leatherman is something that I carry on me all the time at work, sometimes outside of work, but maybe carrying this around every day, I'll be able to see if this is comparable enough to the Leatherman as far as quality and build. But honestly, I more see this as something that I have as a backup and I can just keep in a separate pouch. For 40 bucks, comparing it to other tools on the market, I would say this is a really nice tool. And how is this going to fit in your loadout? I would say the Leatherman is a great working tool. If you see yourself using this every day, you're looking for quality, you want something that you can trust, I would say the Leatherman, but this is a really close contender, I will say. So if you're more on the budget side and you're looking to save a little bit of money, maybe buy a couple of these, maybe give it as a gift, something like that. Say you've never owned a Leatherman, maybe this is something that you want to try because you've never owned one. You get something a little bit cheaper, and then you can try this one down the road. Keep this as a backup. That might be your best option. Overall, I will recommend both tools for sure. Although I don't have a lot that I can say about this as far as build quality. The Leatherman definitely is there. The Gordan, we might need to figure some stuff out, but for 40 bucks, you cannot go wrong. One thing that's always been a driving factor for me to get the Leatherman Wave is having the ability to one-hand use the knives, all of the tools, easy access from the outside. So the fact that you can get that same build from the Gordan for 40 bucks, that is quite the deal. The other thing is having the ability to open pliers with just one hand, and the Gordan has no problem handling that as well. One more thing that I'd like to add, both the Leatherman and the Gordan come with the nylon sheath. Still has that clasp, the elastic band, the belt loop, but I'll just be carrying it in my pocket with the clip. But again, for 40 bucks, with the sheath, a clone to a Leatherman, you cannot go wrong. Thanks for checking out this video. I hope it was a good comparison between the two. Let me know in the comments if you notice there's anything different or anything that I might have missed. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.